Hey there, it's me Eden. Welcome to my channel. If you're new to the channel, then please consider subscribing and please support my work and buy me a coffee worth $1 only. Support link in the comment, thanks. Today's story is written by my beautiful sister Martha. Thanks a lot, sis. Jennifer and Mark have been married for 2 years now, and Mark works as an accountant at a food distribution company. Janet has been working at a retail store that mainly caters to women, and they've been trying to buy a house for some time now. One day, while Mark is doing his job, he is called into the office of the company that he works at, and they begin by saying they are going through a process and due to a lack of business, they have to make a few tough decisions. Then they say, "We're so sorry because of the situation," and that's since he hasn't been there that long with them as their other employees that they are going to have to lay him off. They are sorry that they have to do it, but they have to make cuts everywhere in the company. So he should know that he is not the only one that's getting laid off today. That's when Mark looks at his boss, asks, "Isn't there somewhere else I can help out in the office, please?" His boss continues, "I am sorry, but there is nothing available. But if anything does come up or the situation changes, then he says I will contact you and I'll let you know, and I'm really sorry. I want you to know that there is a severance pay that you're going to receive, and we know it's not much, but we hope it will help you on your next job wherever you decide to go to." His boss says, "And we wish you the best in your future," and his boss finishes saying that they are sorry. His boss shakes his hand and leads him out of the office. That's when Mark begins to start heading out of the building with sad thoughts because he doesn't know where he's going to find his next job from, and he doesn't even know how he's even going to be able to tell his wife what has happened. And he knows he has to tell her as soon as she gets home because he doesn't want to withhold this information from her. So Mark begins heading towards his car, and he knows that he has to go home because he really doesn't have anywhere else he can go to. As he is driving home, he begins thinking about how he's going to be able to tell his wife what happened today. He gets home and begins by turning on the TV and doesn't find anything on that he wants to watch. Then he goes into the den and turns on his computer, but it isn't long before he gets bored. That's when he starts to clean the house. He has always been very good at cleaning the house, and his wife really loves it when he cleans the house because he does a very good job. So he begins to think, maybe I should redo the windows again, inside and out. After he finishes the windows, then he starts to clean the inside of the house. Then he goes to the closet and gets out the vacuum in every room. After he runs the vacuum, he begins to dust everything in the dining room, living room, den, and even the Arizona room. He even decides that he might as well do the ceiling fans too. He begins cleaning all of the ceiling fans in the house. He knows that they really don't need to be cleaned again because he just did them the other day. But since he has nothing to do while he waits for his wife to come home, after he cleans all the ceiling fans in the house, he heads to the kitchen. Then he begins to clean the kitchen, and he starts by cleaning out the refrigerator. He says to himself that this hasn't been done in a while now and over a week since the last time that he cleaned it out. As he cleans out the refrigerator, he starts to think, I might as well do the whole refrigerator and freezer. So after he cleans out the refrigerator, he moves to the freezer next and then decides to pull out frozen food from the freezer because he wants to make a really nice supper meal tonight. He and his wife are both good cooks too, and he knows his wife really loves it whenever he decides to cook for her so she doesn't have to do it. He had decided that he wants to make something really special because he knows he's going to have to tell her some bad news, and he knows it's best to let her know as soon as possible and not try to keep it from her. After he has chicken pulled out from the freezer and put it in the sink to begin thawing it out, he starts to clean the microwave and counters, begins wiping around the sink, and, after he does that, he begins to clean out the dishwasher and the filter trap again. That's when he realizes that he needs to be doing this more than he has been doing it, and it really has been that long since the last it was cleaned. After he cleans it, he looks up at the clock and realizes it's only about an hour until his wife is going to be home. He heads over to the sink and begins to prepare chicken for the meal for tonight, and he has decided that it should be a meal that she really likes. So he starts making the chicken cordon bleu with brown rice, and he's going to make the rice with the chicken. Then, he gets out asparagus with bacon from the refrigerator and begins wrapping asparagus after he has put the chicken and rice in the oven. He has decided that he was going to grill it on the grill that's on top of the stove, but he knows he has to wait until the chicken cordon bleu is cooked and the brown rice is done with the chicken. So, while it's cooking in the oven, he puts the asparagus back into the refrigerator. With that being done, that's when he prepares to set the table for tonight by getting out the fine linens from the drawer. He knows that they only use these on special occasions, and then he goes to the china cabinet, which again is another thing that they do not use very often either. But Mark really wants to make the meal very special because he really doesn't know how she's going to take the news when he has to tell her that he has lost his job today and that he has been laid off. Mark goes to the refrigerator and gets out the asparagus and starts to cook the asparagus on the grill because he knows it's only 15 minutes before the chicken cordon bleu will be done. He begins by laying the asparagus on the grill and starts turning them slowly every few minutes to let them cook. Then, he gets a plate from the cabinet and puts them on it. He sprinkles some paprika on it to give it color, then he sets it on the table at her place where she likes to sit. After that, he's done. He gets the chicken out of the oven. He knows it will not be much longer before his wife will be home soon, so he adds the chicken and the rice to her plate with the asparagus that's already on her plate. As he makes his plate of food, he hears Jennifer's car pull into the driveway. After putting on his plate, he moves the chicken and rice to the middle of the table. He hurries to the front door to greet his wife, and she looks totally surprised to see him at the door because she knows that he's usually not home at this hour. He sees the look on her face, and then tells her, "I don't want to talk about it right now, okay? So let's just eat, and then we'll talk about what happened today." So, after they both ate their meals, they both put their dishes in the dishwasher, and then they start to head into the living room. They both sit down on the couch, and Mark says, "There is something that I need to tell you about." He starts by saying, "I got called into the office today, and they said that they were sorry, but they had to let people go. Since I have not been there as long as other people, they would have to let me go, and they were sorry about having to do this, but he wasn't going to be the only one that they were going to let go too. But they told me that they are going to give me a severance pay to help out while I find another job. I asked them, is there no other place that I can work in the office at this time? They said no, but if something changes, they'll let me know." Jennifer takes him into her arms because she knows that this wasn't easy for him to tell her, and she tries to comfort him. She starts by telling him that everything is going to be okay. Then she says, "I've noticed that you cleaned the house," and she adds, "You did a really nice job tonight." Then she says, "I really appreciate that." And she says, "Maybe you should become my wife so I can always come home to a clean house." She starts to giggle, and then that makes Mark start to laugh too because he knows that she's just trying to make light of the situation. That's when the telephone rings, and she answers it. She recognizes who it is calling and tells Mark that it's her sister Terry. Jennifer begins to say hello, but she can't. Terry begins telling her sister about the reason why she was calling. Terry tells her about the details, about how she has broken her leg and is now in a cast, and she can barely get around. Jennifer says, "Oh." No, I am so sorry that happened to you. Then she asks her, what do you need to do to help you? That's when Terry says, I really need to have my house cleaned because I have some people coming over to my house soon, and I really don't want them to see my messy house. With that said, she asks, would you mind if you'll be so kind and ask your husband Mark if he could come over to her house and do it for her because they both know that he does a really good job whenever he cleans? And she adds, I really would like to have my house cleaned before they arrive. With that being said, Jennifer then lowers the phone down and then begins to ask Mark if he can do a favor for her. Then she says that her sister has broken her leg and she can't really clean her house. She asks if he could please do it for her because we both know that you really do such a great job. And when Mark remembers that he doesn't really like her sister anymore, ever since their wedding day, that's when his wife looks at him and begins to beg him, please help out my sister. She really needs her house to be clean for her guests that are coming over tonight, and she knows how he feels when our house isn't clean. You know how much it would really bother you, so please, I am asking you to help her. Reluctantly, Mark agrees since he is not working right now because he just got laid off. He says, tell her that I will be over in the morning to begin cleaning her house. Jennifer lifts the phone up and puts the phone back to her ear and says, he said he'll be over tomorrow morning. Terry says thank you, and please let Mark know how much I really appreciate you both, and Terry says to her sister, thank you for letting me borrow your husband. Then she says, I appreciate you both for helping her out, and I really appreciate it very much. Later that night, Jennifer and Mark go upstairs to their bedroom, and they climb in the bed together. They have a very good night together, passionately. Mark knows that the only reason Jennifer is doing this is that she knows that he's going to help her sister out. Not long after that, Mark goes into the bathroom and starts to get ready to go to bed. Jennifer then goes into the bathroom, cleans her face, and brushes her teeth, just like her husband did. They both get into bed and say good night to each other, and then they both fall asleep. The next morning, Jennifer wakes up first and starts to get ready for her day for her job at her retail department store. And Mark is still laying in bed, and she knows that he doesn't want to get up when she does, and he understands this, and it's never been a problem for them. So Jennifer gets ready and heads downstairs. She begins making breakfast for them both. That's when Mark gets up and goes to the bathroom to begin a strange thing because he doesn't want any hair on his arms, and he doesn't know why it bothers him so. For some reason, he has to shave it all off of his body. There is another thing that Mark has to also shave because he does not like his having a hairy chest, and neither does his wife. Jennifer doesn't have any problems with him being so hairless, and they both have agreed that he will shave his chest and arms to make sure there's no hair there because she likes to lay on his chest or arms. She also has told him that she doesn't like any facial hair either. So he does not grow a beard or a mustache. He agreed to always keep his face clean-shaven too. After Mark does all that to make sure that he has removed all of the hair that bothers the both of them, and that when he heads downstairs and then he sees his wife in the kitchen. He walks into the kitchen and walks right up to her, and gives her the morning kiss because he loves to give her one every morning. Then he sits down at the table, and she hands him his breakfast. She sits down with her plate, and they begin to eat. After they finish eating, she says, I hope you have a good day, and I again really appreciate you helping out my sister. Mark says, Yeah, only because you know I love you so much and you know that if you would ask me to do almost anything, you know that I would probably do it for you. Then Jennifer gets up and puts her plate in the dishwasher, and Mark follows suit. They do not like running the dishwasher until it's full. Mark kisses his wife goodbye As she leaves the house, and she goes out the door to head to work, gets in her car, backs out of the driveway, and drives to her job. After she leaves, Mark heads back upstairs to the bedroom, and he starts to get dressed. He puts on a pair of his old jeans and an old t-shirt because he knows he's going to be getting dirty when he knows that he's going to be cleaning Terry's house, and he knows that he needs to wear something that he can work in. After he gets done with that, he then heads back downstairs and gets ready to leave the house, and he makes sure all the doors and windows are secured. This one thing he likes to do because he wants to keep the house safe for both him and his wife. As he leaves the house, he turns on the house alarm, and then he gets in his car and begins to drive over to Terry's house. When Mark arrives at Terry's house, he knocks on the door and waits patiently because he knows Terry has a broken leg, and it's probably going to be very difficult for her to get to the door. Not long he has to wait until he hears Terry unlock the door, and she opens the door and she lets Mark enter into her home and says, "I really appreciate this because I really don't like my house not being clean whenever guests are coming to my home. I really can't cancel because we already had to reschedule our meeting again." And after she says that, she's again adds by saying, "Thank you for coming to my rescue and really helping me out." Mark reassures her that everything will be okay. He just needs to know where the cleaning supplies are, and she tells him they are underneath the sink in the kitchen and in the bathroom. Mark heads to the kitchen, and that's when he sees a big bucket of water in the sink. He knows that he has to move it before he can begin his cleaning, so Mark starts by grabbing the bucket and begins to lift it out of the sink. While lifting it out of the sink, his hand slips and spills all of the water from the bucket onto him. And he is now soaking wet. With a cry of distraught from Mark, and Terry hears him, and as she comes into the kitchen and sees what happened, she can't believe that he is now soaking wet. She's really trying hard not to laugh at what she sees, and that's when Mark says that he needs to clean up the water that is on the floor. And then she tells him that he has to change his clothes before he can return to finish cleaning the house. Terry tells him that he needs to go upstairs and get into the shower to get cleaned up, and she will try to find him something that he can wear so he can finish cleaning. It's not long before Terry realizes that she doesn't have any clothes that he can wear because she only has women's clothes, and she doesn't think that he can fit into her clothes. Then she remembers that she has a costume that she's working on for a girl who's doing a magic show, and she begins to think that it should fit him. So she goes to her drawers, and she pulls out panties and a bra because if he's going to wear that costume, he is going to need these items. Then she pulls out black tights for him, thinking that he has not shaved his legs, and they would not look good if his legs weren't shaven, especially in that costume. While Mark is in the bathroom, he has taken off all his clothes because they are all soaking wet, and then he hands the clothes to Terry, who said that she will put them in the washer after he gets dressed. That's when she begins to tell Mark that she is sorry she does not have any men's clothes in her house for him. Mark begins to sigh because he's not sure what to do, and then Terry tells him she has something that will fit him, but he will need to put on these other things on first. With that said, she's going to be handing him some new things that he will need to wear. And then she hands him the panties, bra, and tights and tells him to put on the panties first. And then he'll have to roll down the tights and point his toes, and after that, he should roll them up on his legs to his knees, and then do the other one the same way. Then he should be able to pull them up the rest of the way. Mark is thinking, "Oh my gosh, I am going to be wearing pantyhose." With those thoughts, he puts the panties on first. Then he sees the bulge up front, and he realizes that he's gonna have to tuck himself. And then he begins to put on the black tights, and he begins putting them on following Terry's instructions carefully. At the time, he doesn't know why he needed to put them on the way she told him. That's when he sees the bra, and he doesn't know how to put it on. So, he lets his sister-in-law know that he doesn't know how to do it, and she tells him to fasten it in front and then turn it around. She offers to help him adjust it on his chest so it looks good. Mark is confused and asks Terry why he needs to wear a bra. She explains, because if you are going to wear this costume, then you will need it. What neither of them knows is that this is a magic outfit usually used for a magician's assistant, who helps with magic tricks. They have no idea what this outfit will do to whoever puts it on will be transformed, and Mark knows that he really doesn't want to wear the costume. But he also knows that he cannot walk around her house naked, so reluctantly, he puts on the dress. Surprisingly, it actually fits him. And he then tries to pull up the zipper by himself. It's not long before he realizes that he's going to need Terry's help with it. And then he knows that he's gonna have to ask her to help him. With knowing this, he then says to Terry, "I know this is going to sound weird, but I need you to zip up my dress, please." As Terry zips the zipper on the outfit, that's when all of a sudden she sees the zipper disappear, and the zipper is completely gone. Then she doesn't know how to tell Mark what has just happened, and she hasn't got any ideas how he's going to be able to get out of the outfit. With knowing this, she begins by saying, "Mark, I've got some bad news for you that I wish I didn't have to tell you." This is when he starts to wonder what happened and is really starting to get worried about what she was gonna say to him, and she continues, "I don't know how to tell you this, but after I have zipped you up in this dress, the zipper has disappeared. And without the zipper, there is no way to unzip this dress, and you might be stuck in it until we can figure out a way to get it off of you." And they don't know about this outfit that only the magician can make the zipper reappear, and the magician is nowhere right now anywhere around to where they are. Terry says, "I don't know how to even reach him," and then Mark says to her that maybe she could possibly call the magician's assistant, who might know how they can get a hold of him, and maybe she knows what they need to do, and maybe she might be able to contact the magician to help them out. And that's when Mark starts trying to pull off the dress and tries to rip it off his body, but he can't do it. Then he gets a pair of scissors out of the drawer, and then he tries cutting it with the scissors and can't believe that he can't even cut it off of him. He gets out a knife and again tries to use it, but the knife is also not working either. And he looks at Terry and says to her, "What am I supposed to do? There's no way I can go home in this dress because Jennifer would definitely want to know what happened to me, and that's after she gets done laughing at me, and she'll probably never believe me either." Mark sees that Terry is doing her best, trying not to laugh at him, because she sees how much the dress really is bothering him. He knows that she's really trying not to make him feel more uncomfortable with the situation. And that's when, all of a sudden, Terry starts to see changes starting to happen to Mark. She sees his hair start to grow, and it doesn't stop until it reaches just below his shoulders. Then she sees how it's styled in a feminine fashion, like if he just came from a beauty salon. Then she notices his face changing, becoming so much more feminine now, and then makeup appears on his face. Now he looks like a beautiful woman, and they both don't know that this makeup doesn't come off. Mark then feels all of this happening, and they both realize that there's nothing they can do to stop what's happening. And then all of a sudden, they both see his breasts start growing, and they are filling up the bra that he has on. They grow until they are a C-cup size, Terry thinks. And then she notices his waist is shrinking into a more feminine shape, and he notices his butt and hips are getting bigger, now filling out the dress just like they would for a woman. That's when he feels the one thing that any man wouldn't ever want to feel, his male part starts going up inside him. And then, even though he can't look at it right away, he knows what just happened. He begins to start crying. And then she sees his legs start to get slender and very feminine looking, and even his hands get smaller, and his fingernails start to grow. They both see that they already have a dark shade of red nail polish on them, and she sees that his feet start to shrink, and he sees his toenails also have a dark red shade of red, just like his fingernails. And then he realizes that he's starting to shrink in size because he was approximately 6'1", but now he is about 5 feet 4 inches. And that's when Mark realizes that the transformation is now completed, and now Mark is not only looking like a beautiful woman, that he is now physically a woman too, and she looks exactly like a magician's assistant would look like. Terry begins to think and kinda knows that Mark probably can now wear her shoes because her feet are smaller now, so maybe she could get a pair of low heels out of her closet and have him put them on. He is so surprised when they fit him so well. After being astonished by the total transformation, then that's when Mark begins to say something, and then he hears a very feminine voice coming out of his mouth, and then he starts to cough, thinking that this might help him get his voice back, but when it doesn't, then he asks Terry for a glass of water and starts to gargle with the water to see if it would help, but it's not long before he realizes that it doesn't help either. Knowing this, he again starts to cry because he definitely didn't want this to happen to him. Then Terry remembers that Mark said, "I should probably try to call the person that has worn this outfit, and that maybe she'll know what we can do because there has to be a way to get the dress off." So Terry picks up the phone and calls the lady that owns the dress, and that's when Mark can hear that Jasmine had answered her phone. She then begins telling Terry about everything that's happened. Before Jasmine can finish what she's saying, Terry interrupts her and asks her if she knows what we need to do so we can take off the outfit. Terry just listens to what Jasmine is saying, and she doesn't talk on the phone at all. It's not long before Terry slowly hangs up the phone. Then Mark asks Terry, "So what do we need to do?" That's when Terry realizes that she doesn't know how she's gonna be able to tell Mark the really worst news, but she knows that she's got to tell him. So she asks him if wouldn't mind keeping her house clean to make another phone call. She really doesn't want Mark to know who she's going to call because he probably will get very upset with her because she's going to need to call her sister. She needs to keep him from knowing this, and she really wants to keep him occupied with something else before she has to tell him about the information that will probably be hard to hear. Mark says, "Yeah, it will help me keep my mind off that I am now wearing a dress." He senses there's something wrong with it too, but he doesn't want to say anything about it. So Mark goes into the kitchen and begins to clean the kitchen, then heads to the bathroom, and finally, the dining room while he is doing all this cleaning. That's when Terry calls her sister Jennifer at work and tells her that she needs to come to her house as soon as possible. Terry decides to wait till Jennifer arrives before giving them both the bad news. When Mark is in the dining room, Terry hears Jennifer's car park in her driveway. That's when Terry goes to the door, unlocks it, and lets Jennifer in. She then tries to explain everything that has happened, and then she tells Jennifer not to be surprised when you see your husband Mark because you definitely won't even recognize him. Jennifer's mouth drops open, and she totally can't believe what she is seeing. Then she says, "Oh my gosh, is that you really, Mark?" Because she can't believe it's truly him. She just stares at the outfit that her husband Mark is wearing. Then she goes to him and starts looking for the zipper or a button or something so he could get him out of it. That's when Terry tells her the zipper disappeared the moment that I zipped him in it. Jennifer says, "This is totally unreal. There's got to be a way to get this dress off my husband." After she said that, Terry asks Jennifer and Mark if they probably should sit down on the couch, and she adds please to her request. She then begins to tell them what Jasmine said to her. She begins by telling them that the outfit that Mark has put on is a magic outfit, and that nobody except the magician himself can remove it from his body. She continues by saying that you will be able to lower it down so you can use it for the bathroom facilities you can, but that's all you can do. There's no way this dress or anything else will come off his body. She adds that they can't take off the dress until the magician uses his powers, and then the zipper will reappear, and then he can get out of it because only this magician has that power to do it. Both Jennifer and Mark see the tears starting to be in Terry's eyes, and then that's when she continues on with what Jasmine has also told her. She begins to tell them the really bad part of all of this news. Terry has a very hard time saying what she has to say to them, and with a low voice, she needs to let them both know that the magician has passed away and he was killed in a very bad car accident. Mark says, then the magic should be broken and I should be able to get this dress off. He adds, because I'm not trying to be unkind, but if he's dead, then that should undo any magic spells that are on this outfit, right? Terry again replies to him with tears in her eyes and says, no, I am sorry, Mark, but you will never be able to take that outfit off totally ever again. You will be stuck in it for the rest of your life. When your time is over in this life and when you have passed away, you will also have to be buried in it, the outfit, because there's no way you'll be able to get it off without those magic words from only that magician that is now dead, so it isn't possibility anymore. With that, when Mark and Jennifer hear that information, they both break down and start crying because they don't know what they are going to do about this. As Jennifer wipes away tears and looks at Mark, she says, well, since you are going to be a woman for the rest of your life, we're going to need to legally change your name. From now on, I will call you Marlene. With a sad heart, Jennifer and Marlene decide to go back home because they are so devastated by what they heard. They don't even say goodbye because they are both distraught about everything and they don't know what to say to Terry because they are just so sad about what has happened. They do not want Terry to feel bad because she did not know that the outfit was a magic outfit. They would eventually tell Terry that they don't blame her for anything and she shouldn't blame herself either. Then all decide that they shouldn't give up and they begin trying to find another magician that might be able to help them. They ask around, search and search, but they couldn't find anybody that can help them. The only one that can make the zipper reappear isn't alive anymore. This is when Marlene knows that she will have to work from home from now on because she will never be able to go to an office to work anywhere, and there's no way she can even work at the retail place where Jennifer works at because of the way she looks, even though Marlene can never take off the outfit. She can move it down to go to the bathroom as Terry was told that she could do, but could not lower it more than to her knees, but she could not remove the dress. So they come to realize that Marlene is stuck in this outfit for the rest of her life and there's no escape. They fill out her application for her to legally change her name to Marlene, and Jennifer then accepts her as her wife and also accepts her wife's name. They both also accept what has happened to her, and they live together as long as possible before Marlene passes away. They both know that there's nothing that anyone can do to change what has happened to her. Please like and subscribe for the next part, and visit my Patreon page for early access. Patreon.com/Eden07. Link in the comment. Thanks.